Welcome to Mike and Melick Fantasy Studios. I'm your host, Mike, and to the right of me, some days it might be to the left, Justin Melick. And we're here to talk some football, maybe drink some beer depending on the day. We got a good Thursday night football game starting up. But we're going to start off with some introductions. I'm Mike, as you guys know. I'm in my 20s. I love football. I like drinking beer. Unfortunately, I'm a Jets fan. That's really all I have to say, but I do have good insight. I've been really invested in fantasy football for a long time now, and I want to hear what Justin has to say about his upbringing and what sparked his interest in football and what led him to here today.
Yes, this is Melick. It was really convenient that his name was Mike and mine's Melick because that's the name of our show. I actually thought his name was Bob. You know. But I'm drinking chocolate milk. Okay. So Mike is a statistical genius. He's amazing.
They say.
Yes, he's a brilliant college kid, got a degree in basket weaving or something, but he can really crunch the numbers like no one I've ever seen. So it's amazing how good he is with his...
Basket weaving takes some skill.
It does. And you owe me a basket for Christmas, I think.
I'll consider it.
Okay, so about me, he said he wanted me to introduce myself to all fans out there. I really enjoy short, romantic walks on the beach. Short because all the shells on the ground hurt my toes. But, yeah, I've always loved sports. All of them. Like, played all of them. Baseball and soccer. When I lived in Southeast Asia for part of my childhood, I even got wickedly good at badminton.
Badminton?
No one gets the hose like being good at badminton, okay?
It's very true.
I love it. Since everything was so cheap over there, my mom started getting me all kinds of lessons, like horseback riding lessons.
Really?
But we had to wear this stupid British hat. It wasn't like cowboy style. But there for some reason at the stable, they also had Muay Thai. So I was like, I want to do that. She's like, no violent sports. She wanted no violence until we did something wrong, and then it was all violence. But then tennis lessons, I had about 3 of those. I was really good at serving, which would serve me well later in life when I got a job at Dairy Queen. Just kidding, I didn't. They wouldn't hire me. But one day, the tennis instructor died of a heart attack, so...
Jesus.
Yeah, I could have been, a pro, but I was too traumatized, so I moved on. But,
I'm glad you moved on, Justin.
Yes, I had years of counseling.
All right.
Yeah. Not really. But football was always my favorite.
Same here.
I was obsessed with it as a child, following the Dolphins.
You're a Dolphins fan?
Yes, because Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team.
So it looks like we got ourselves a little bit of an AFC East rivalry going on in the office.
I know.
Should I say the studio? How do you feel like Tua's going to play this week?
Well, that's the big question.
First start. It's very important. A lot of anticipation going into this game. He came in for Fitzpatrick last week towards the end of the game. Didn't look so bad, but in a small sample amount of time for him to get those snaps and run some plays, you just really can't tell at that point. But we'll circle back to that, Tua Tagovailoa. Don't really know how to spell it exactly, but we'll bring up the Dolphins a little bit later. We got a bunch of stuff for you guys going on today. We just started with introductions, just kept it brief a little bit, but we're going to move on to the NFL catch-up right now, basically the season revision. This is our first podcast, and it is at mid-season, so we kind of go over what basically happened over the season and see what it has led to now and the rest of the season, how everything ties together, and let's talk right now. So first up, we're going to talk about Dak Prescott. He got hurt a couple weeks ago, did not look good, obviously. He broke his ankle. Dalton came in last week. He got hurt. He almost got decapitated. That was a really, really dirty play.
who now no one wants to be their quarterback.
Yeah, so they have this quarterback from James Madison University coming in. He's the third string. I believe he's still a rookie. And I'm not really feeling it right now with the Dallas Cowboys offense.
No, they're not producing anything, so they're going to have a hard road, and I feel sorry for whoever they get to be their next quarterback after this guy goes down. I think they're looking at middle school quarterbacks right now.
It's really looking like Dak was the glue to that offense. Although they weren't winning as a team up until his injury, their defense is definitely the problem. So they will be behind in most of these games going forward. There's going to be a lot of passing opportunities, but with someone with no experience passing to them, especially until Dalton comes back, not really I can trust players like CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper.
Their offensive line is so bad, you can't expect anybody, especially a rookie, to be able to get in there and make any passes.
It's a really tough situation, and with a lot of tension in the locker room with Mike McCarthy and the players, it's not really looking good for Dallas. So I would probably try to stay away from those type of players.
Their offensive line is so bad, they weren't even willing to start a brawl when Andy Dalton's head came off. And obviously there's been controversy about that. What kind of offensive linemen don't want to start a fight?
Exactly. It's football. We got to start fights when our quarterback gets hit. That's something they should say.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's something Mike McCarthy spoke on, and how the players were talking about Mike McCarthy in previous weeks and talking about it's about the team, and they just didn't retaliate when their backup quarterback got hurt in a very vicious way, a very unacceptable way. But we don't condone fighting, obviously.
Of course
But the thing is, you got to stick up for your quarterback. You got to have some integrity on the field. And it's football, guys. You got to put your neck out there for your teammates. And you do it when it matters most. Next up, we're going to talk about Christian McCaffrey and the Mike Davis situation. It looks like McCaffrey is not going to be playing this week.
That is correct.
This game is tonight. We're recording on Thursday right now. So we're getting ready for the games. Can't wait. It's going to be really exciting. I hope it's a high-scoring game. But Mike Davis, this is looking like his last week to start for the Carolina Panthers. What do you think about that, Justin?
Most likely Christian did attend practice yesterday, but he only went to the walkthroughs. He had a red no-contact jersey on and a baseball cap. So hopefully he'll be back next week. But if so, bye-bye Mike Davis.
I'm really starting to think that when Christian McCaffrey comes back, he's not going to get the full workload. Well, especially immediately. Do you think they might have a little duo with split carries? Obviously, I would think Christian McCaffrey would go 60, Mike Davis 40 at most. Because Christian McCaffrey really, he's Christian McCaffrey. He just got a huge extension. But Mike Davis has been performing really, really well. Do you think the coaches over there with Matt Rule, considering giving Mike Davis somewhat of a high floor role in terms of production?
He's a first year coach with not proven, so obviously
I think he's done pretty well.
Okay, looking at the record, yes, no. He's gonna want to ease Christian back into it, but he also needs to get some wins quickly. So when you're in the NFL, you really can't sit around too long. You got to get your magic potion shot and get back out there.
So McCaffrey been out more than a few weeks, and Mike Davis did well, but we're expecting, I personally am expecting Mike Davis to have somewhat of a role when he comes back next week. But for this week, Mike Davis, he's looking like a good start. He's only been doing well. He gets targets, he gets carries, he gets good production. Next up, we're going to talk about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. As we know, Nick Chubb went down with an MCL injury, not as bad as they expected it to be. Kareem Hunt was still producing even when Nick Chubb was healthy at the beginning of the season, and Kareem Hunt's been doing pretty well in his absence. But we're expecting Nick Chubb to come back after the bye week in Week 9. Week 10, it's looking like it's going to go back to the way it was. Browns, they're doing pretty well. It doesn't seem so when you watch the games, but their record shows that they are. Do you think that they're not going to rush Nick Chubb back so quick?
Oh, he's got to jump back in there.
Yeah.
Sure.
I agree with you. He's really productive, and when he came in last season, he's somebody you just couldn't turn away from. When it turns out you got to give the ball to somebody who's going to get those yards.
Chubb will get the dub. That's
Chubb
the motto.
will get the dub.
Not really, but it should be. It should be.
All right, so moving on from the Browns and their running backfield, we're going to move on to the Chiefs right now, and we're going to talk about a little bit of Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What do you think about the situation going on there, Jay?
I just don't think Le'Veon Bell is going to have that big of a role. You saw what he did last week. Not great. So I think unless Helaire something happens to him, that he's going to continue being number 2 man, and I would expect him to be a big win for your fantasy team.
Yeah, as a rookie, you don't have experience, although Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the first-round pick for the Chiefs. He's been doing really well when it turns out whenever they give him the ball, he's going to get some yards. But he's been having some touchdown, not so much upside. It's a big downside for him throughout the season with the addition of Le'Veon Bell. It's going to take away from carries and definitely, basically, make his touchdown upside obsolete going forward. As a Jet fan, Le'Veon Bell leaving the Jets, I thought it was proper. They were not using him properly. And I'm glad he found a new home and a great team that's going to basically just rally around him. And he knows what to do. He's great with patience. He has a great history in that.
Well, Mike cried. Okay, it's fair to say that Mike cried, but
just a little bit.
It's okay. Men are allowed to cry about football, okay?
Especially when it's the Jets, because it's an every week occurrence, and it's not looking good.
There's always next week, Mike.
All right, and moving on from the Chiefs' backfield, I want to bring up another backfield here. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Going forward, Leonard Fournette's he was out a couple weeks dealing with injury issues, and this is what we're talking about on the catch-up. Ronald Jones has been playing really well. With Leonard Fournette back, how do you see that basically propelling forward for their backfield for the rest of the season?
Well, I think they're going to split the points. Fournette has been a little bit of a disappointment this year, but I think it's going to be about a 50-50, my opinion.
50-50. I think it's going to start with that, obviously. But Leonard Fournette, when he was healthy, that Week 2 performance with over 120 rushing yards, freaking outstanding. I really, really think Fournette's going to take over that backfield and give it a couple weeks, but he's getting more and more touches. Every week he's healthy. I can see that happening. Pulling for the guy. But let's move on here. And more backfield talk. We have Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds. We're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals right here. Kenyon Drake went down with an injury last week. Chase Edmonds, it's been looking like he was the guy the whole time, but just didn't get enough touches. Kenyon Drake's been struggling a little bit. And I remember that garbage time touchdown that he got a couple weeks ago, kind of helped his fantasy value. But I'm really feeling Chase Edmonds' season. I think it's time for him to pop off. In the absence of Kenyon Drake, obviously they're on a bye week now, but Kenyon Drake's expected to be out for a few weeks. What do you feel about that?
I feel like he needs to get back in there. I saw him at that game. He ran back out of the locker room, so what is he sitting around for?
What is he sitting around for? Give the Drakes some more touches, but maybe not. Chase Edmonds' season. All right, so now it looks like we're going to segue into Thursday Night Football. Like I said, guys, we are recording on Thursday here, and we got a Falcons-Panthers matchup revisiting from their Week 5 matchup. It was a little crazy, and we'll start off talking about Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan, Matty Ice. They call him that because...
Not because he has ice in his veins, because he freezes.
It's because he likes ice in his Slurpee. So, Matt. I feel like the Falcons are going to win.
Okay.
And both Matt and Teddy are middle of the pack quarterbacks. But if it turns out into a shootout, they both could score. I would expect them both to be at least low 20s, but they could pop off.
Well, in week 5, when they last faced off, Matt Ryan didn't have Julio Jones.
Yeah.
And like I say, I think the Falcons are going to win this game. I really feel that when he's got a healthy Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley still there, and not even to forget about, Calvin Ridley had 136 receiving yards that week without Julio Jones. With Julio Jones back, I don't necessarily think he's going to get that 100-yard mark necessarily. Definitely possible, but I think his yards might go down in terms of receiving, and his touchdown upside is more up than that week. So I am anticipating a good week from Calvin Ridley. We're going to move on. Well, we just talked about Mike Davis. Mike Davis had 150 scrimmage yards and a touchdown week 5. How do you feel like he's going to play this week? Or tonight, say least.
Tonight. Well, first of all, it's going to be a beautiful 73 degrees in Charlotte.
Weather's nice.
And there's a tropical storm warning. So the thing is that...
Find shelter.
Yes. If they see a tornado behind them, I guarantee you they will run faster, which could lead to more rush yards.
That's a good prediction right there, Mr. Melick.
So, yeah. So I think the Atlanta players will benefit most from the balmy, crazy weather.
Okay. And we also have Todd Gurley to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Todd Gurley's had a crazy, crazy season this year. Not a lot of people were anticipating him to play well. Last week was funny. Towards the end of the game, obviously, a lot of people blame Todd Gurley for that loss because he was supposed to go down. I think they should have just taken a knee at that point, and he fell into the end zone, got that touchdown. I do have him in a couple leagues of my own. Not going to be biased on the show at all whatsoever. But in week 5, Todd Gurley had 121 rushing yards with a touchdown paired with that. I think he could go off again, but I don't think he's going to reach the 100-yard mark, though. I still think he's going to get a touchdown. His targets are a little bit low this year. You know, what we expect from running backs and fantasy guys is obviously targets and rushing attempts. Dual threat running backs gives the most production for running backs. But Todd Gurley he's been getting a lot of touches in that backfield regardless of how he plays. I think his upside's there for tonight.
Yep. I think he's going to have a good night. It will be a passing game, but you can't blame a guy for scoring.
You cannot, especially when you have him in fantasy.
It's still up to the defense to stop the other team from scoring. Losers. So he's going to be looking to redeem himself tonight because he's been beat up all week.
Yes. Very, very distraught for Todd Gurley. Getting a lot of blame for that, although Falcons' defense, they've been awful.
Ridiculously bad.
I mean,
like you're trying to stop me from getting to the refrigerator.
Yeah, you score a touchdown with a minute left. I would really hope that my defense could hold him off at least somewhat.
1 minute. Todd Gurley is made to score, not stop at the 1-yard line and fall down. It's a stupid thing to ask of the man.
Well, as we see, guys, Todd Gurley, he scores even when he doesn't want to. I like that. And I think he's going to have a good night tonight.
Not really.
We also have Robbie Anderson to talk about in this game tonight. You think he's going to go over 100 receiving yards? Over, under? He's second in the league in receiving yards this year so far. And as a Jet fan, sucks to see him go, but I'm really happy he's thriving right now.
I'm telling you, this is going to be a passing game, and he's going to blow past 100. Kind of like me and my breathalyzer. Not really.
That's really high for a breathalyzer. I'm not sure if you've ever taken one before.
Chocolate milk does that. Okay, that's all I drink.
Yes, I do not drink chocolate milk. I drink Bush specifically and only.
They did not sponsor us!
And back to Thursday night's game. Julio Jones was out that week in week 5 when they last faced off Falcons-Panthers. Julio, he could have a good game here, but this just opens it up mostly for Matt Ryan and his opportunities. And it definitely opens it up for Ridley for touchdown upside and Hayden Hurst for basically just getting open. He struggled that week. Hayden Hurst I'm talking about. This can go well for them. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for them.
Hayden Hurst, after that sad, heartbreaking game where they lost, they've almost won so many times, but when they almost won this last time, his car was broken into, and they stole his iPad. So this man is mad. He's going to be playing angry, looking for the dude who stole his iPad. So he's going to go off.
Yeah. Somebody took my iPad. I would go off in a football game if I was a professional football player.
Purely logical.
All right. So segueing away from the Thursday night's game, let's talk about the weekend here. Starts, sits, booms, bust. We're going to start with quarterbacks. Who do you think is going to go off? Who's your first boom quarterback for this week?
Phillip Rivers.
Why are we talking about Phillip Rivers?
Phillip Rivers is the greatest quarterback in the NFL today.
Definitely opinionated, but secured by the First Amendment. He's entitled to that, although I completely disagree.
Excuse me, this man has like 8 children. This man knows how to take his shot and land it.
That is actually very, very smart of a reason to like Phillip Rivers and think that he's the best quarterback these days, but according to statistics, because I'm the statistics guy, he is awful.
I go with my gut. Phillip Rivers is a man with something to prove. 2 weeks ago, he had his bye this week, but he was a man under pressure, and he delivered. They were down 21-0, and he marched back and led them to a glorious victory. And he's going to do that again this week.
That was a really impressive win. I don't give Phillip Rivers all the reason for that and credit, but I have him as one of my busts this week.
What?
Definitely a sit.
You lost your mind.
He's playing the Lions. They're getting somewhat better on defense, but it just looks like that cold offense doesn't have anybody to rely on necessarily. Although they do play a decent team game every now and then, there's no consistency to it, and Phillip Rivers does not seem like the guy for that offense.
You're going to see rivers of fantasy points, guaranteed. Okay, so next I have Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert, last week was really impressive from the rookie.
38. Phillip Rivers' age, by the way. So he is playing, he's a rookie, but he's playing like a seasoned all-star.
I would definitely say he is so far, but when it comes to rookies, you can't necessarily rely 100% on consistency. There's going to be some downside weeks. I don't have him as a boom or bust. This is a trial week in which I see what the kid is truly worth in terms of consistency, because that last week was really impressive, but I can't delve into giving him the boom status for this week.
True.
You have another boom?
Well, I've got Jimmy G. He's a man on a mission, playing Seattle defense, which is not so good. They're near the bottom, so I think it's going to be a passing shootout, and so he is going to put up a lot of points.
Jimmy G. A lot of points. I don't know about that, guys. We'll see if Jamal Adams plays this week, because definitely hurt Seattle's defense last week when they lost to the Cardinals in overtime. They needed him out there. As a Jet fan, didn't like the way he went out, but he's definitely a big piece to that defense. They need him, and that's definitely going to determine whether or not Jimmy G can pull it off. I'm going to go on to my booms right now, and I got Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Tannehill, and Wentz. Start these guys. I am telling you, I'm really feeling it. We got Rodgers playing. He is good, guys. He's Aaron Rodgers. He's not the guy we expected him to be this year because he's so much more. I think he's going to have 4 touchdown passes over 360 yards. And over to Burrow, he's playing Tennessee, and Kirk Cousins week 3 had 3 touchdowns on him. Whenever Kirk Cousins does well against the defense, you start that guy. And we also got Tannehill going against Cincinnati. Burrow going against the Titans. I think both these quarterbacks are going to do well in that one specific game. It's going to be fun to watch. and Carson Wentz versus Dallas. That Dallas defense has been struggling all year. Not big on Dallas's defense at all whatsoever, and obviously with the quarterback status hurting them, it's a big game for Wentz to step up and does what we have to do with or without Miles Sanders.
Well, I don't personally see Aaron Rodgers as a boom. I think he's in every day. Start him every day, and you'll probably be fine. Burrow, too inconsistent for me. He can boom one day and just be trashed the next. So if you're looking for consistency, he wouldn't be who I would suggest. Carson Wentz, he does end up in a lot of close shootouts, so he has the potential to put up a lot of points. What was the other loser you said?
The other loser, you talking about Tannehill?
Oh, Tannehill.
Tannehill. The ex-Dolphin.
Tannehill. Yeah, he's another good everyday player. You play him every week, you'll be fine.
Although his main job is handing the ball off to Derrick Henry. That's a good job to have and make over $100 million, don't you say?
Yes. The only job better is... What do we get paid here?
I thought this was just volunteer work.
Oh, we're doing it for love?
Yes. For the love of the game, everybody. For the love of the game.
Oh, well, okay. He has a better job than us, slightly.
All right, so we're going to move on to busts right now for quarterbacks. What are you feeling, Jay?
Well, obviously, Cam Newton is a bust.
I agree with you.
He might not even start. They might give him another chance, but there's a good chance of being pulled if he does start. He's just not working.
It's also in Bill Belichick's system. You know, you never really know. He goes with his hot hands, whatever he feels, and you know, there's really no telling. The first few weeks with Cam Newton looked great and all, but this is an interdivisional matchup, AFC East matchup, Bills versus Patriots. I got Cam Newton with a couple interceptions, and Edelman just went in for surgery today. Not looking good for any upside. Might have to lean on N'Keal Harry a little bit, but there's really nobody in that offense that, you know, can really get the ball going. If they do get the lead, though, it'll be great for the running back committee. But for Cam Newton specifically, he's a dud this week, for sure.
Obviously, whoever starts for Dallas is a dud.
For sure.
Kirk Cousins, bust, because they're playing Green Bay.
And it's Kirk Cousins. He's the worst quarterback, and he had the worst.
He's had some good games.
Voice crack I've ever heard on an NFL mic'd up situation. It was really, really bad. Even the announcers were laughing. It was hysterical. I got a bust this week that you're not going to like, Justin.
Who?
Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh.
I'm not feeling it. Got to let the kid warm it up. I got Devontae Parker as a bust this week as well. Just not really looking good for, you know, their offense. They're going against the Rams, and you know, it's not something you really want to delve into quick.
Well, the first thing that makes to us.
Get it to us. Oh,
laugh hard.
All right,
it's in your contract.
I like the puns. Keep them coming.
I'm just really not sure. I mean, I just don't think you can really say. So there's not many people that have rostered him because we're all in the same. Honestly, my feeling about him in general is that I've always thought this for a long time, is he is an injury magnet, and this has been a crazy year for injuries because they weren't able to get warmed up.
That's right.
Properly,
Yeah.
and so it's already bad. But him, he's 20 years old. His short time in college. He had 2 bad high ankle sprains. One of them required surgery. And then, of course, he had the hit that took him out. If you look back at the footage from all angles, it really wasn't even that hard of a hit. Nick Saban was just on the sideline saying, "What is that kid doing lying there? Come on, got a game to play." See that on his face.
I'm sure that's exactly what he said.
Pretty much. Well, he did eventually run out and stare down at him. But I mean, he dislocated his hip, fractured the wall.
Yeah, not good.
Concussion, broken nose. It was horrible, but I just think the kid is too frail for the NFL, and I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks with a lot of potential, but just going to be plagued by injuries his whole career, and I think it's a good possibility that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to get called back into service before the end of the season.
Okay. Well, the tank for Tua worked out in terms of getting him. We'll see if he actually produces this week. We'll revisit it next week and say who was right, who was wrong on the start, sits, boom, bust. Let's move over to running backs. I got a decent amount of booms over here. I got Boston Scott, running back for the Eagles. Sanders is looking like he's going to be out. It's definitely time for him to get some more production. Last week he did pretty well, 16 points, half-point PPR. Also got Melvin Gordon, and this is, me personally, I feel like he will have a great game if Philip Lindsay is out. He's currently in concussion protocol. Also, in terms of injuries and somebody stepping up to the plate, let's talk about Jamal Williams. Aaron Jones was a DNP, do not play, calf injury yesterday at practice. It's looking like Jamal Williams is going to get the workload, and they got a good matchup, so we'll see if that works out. Also got Le'Veon Bell. I think he's going to get more touches this week. He's playing the Jets. This is a rivalry game for him. It tends to be that people favor rivalry games for players when they get traded or leave and they play against their previous team. It tends to not necessarily work out, but the Chiefs will definitely find a way for Le'Veon Bell, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a good game for him, and I really want to see it myself, especially as a Jets fan. Let's go, Bell.
Okay, well, that's the last bell in your career. Throw in the towel!
Throw in the towel!
Throw it in!
Throw it in!
All right, so I bet you're sitting wondering what my booms are in running back.
I'm wondering what your booms are for running back. Let's see them.
I've got Derrick Henry because, they're playing Cincinnati, so.
Yeah, can't go wrong starting Derrick Henry any week, especially when they're playing Cincinnati.
He's going to be chewing up the yards. We got Todd Gurley. We already talked about him a lot because he's not a girly man, despite his name. Alvin Kamara, they're playing Chicago, and their defense is just not up to par, as we saw on Monday night. Pitiful.
Yeah, we saw last week when the Rams played against Chicago, Darrell Henderson had some good touches in there as well. Yeah. And when you got a guy like Alvin Kamara stepping up to the plate, he's going to get his catches, he's going to get his rushes, and he's been productive all season. No reason not to start him, obviously. He's a must-start. It's going to be a good game for him.
And finally, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because they're playing the New York Jets.
Ooh, you're starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I say start Le'Veon Bell.
I say that Clyde is going to continue to be the dominant force in the team, and they're playing the Jets. Anyone who's playing the Jets, you want to start them.
But if you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell both rostered, would you start them both?
Depends on who else you had.
That is very true, but I personally would not start both. I would go Le'Veon Bell. He's going Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Next week when we revisit this, next episode, we'll see who's right. Yeah, and we'll see who's getting the touches going forward. Because Clyde Edwards-Helaire's touches have dropped. Although he did get a touchdown last week with less touches than he's had all season. I found that crazy. We will see. Let's move on to some busts for running backs. I got Damian Harris. You know, the guy gets limited touches in the Patriots offense. Bill Belichick, for years and years on end, he's never had that one running back guy since basically LeGarrette Blount to just carry the torch and just run down the field, stomp all over it, and be the guy in that backfield. Bill Belichick likes committees. I just think Damian Harris is a great running back. He's been doing well with the touches that he's gotten, but he's not good enough in terms of production for fantasy value going forward, in my opinion, and especially this week. This week, it's not looking good for him. Joshua Kelly, we got Austin Eckler coming back in a few weeks, maybe. We don't know necessarily sure yet, but the guy hasn't been doing anything in his absence. No reason to start him this week. If you have anybody else to play, I would start him. But yeah, I would stay away from Joshua Kelly. Also, Gus Edwards. We looking like we got Mark Ingram out. A lot of people are picking up Gus Edwards. I've personally been getting a lot of questions about Gus Edwards himself. And he's just not the guy for that backfield in the absence of Mark Ingram. I feel like the guy to start is J.K. Dobbins in that backfield. And for the last of my running back busts, JaMychal Hasty, we got Raheem Mostert out once again. I was really looking forward to see Raheem Mostert play this year. But due to his injury, JaMychal Hasty is going to be getting some more production, but I'm not necessarily sure if that's the right fit, and this is the right week for him to play that well. And it's just not sitting right with me, Jay. Who are your busts looking like?
It's sitting right with you like Taco Bell.
I like Taco Bell.
Oh, I don't like when you eat it. Okay, well, I've only got 2 busts. Because nobody likes a bunch of busts. Okay, they do. But first, I got Le'Veon Bell.
No.
You want to stay away from him like you stay away from that candy corns on Halloween.
I love candy corn.
You go trick-or-treating and people dump a handful of candy corns in your little pumpkin thing. Don't eat it.
Well, if the candy corns look like Le'Veon Bell in Week 8, I'm eating all I can get.
Well, that would be pretty cool. Actually, I would eat Le'Veon Bell candy corns. You should consider that. It's a good endorsement for him. The other one I got is, well, you're a genius every now and then. Gus Edwards.
He's right. Let's go.
Edwards.
We agree on something every once in a while.
Because, Mark Ingram's not coming back this week, but that might tempt some people to keep Gus in there. But he has not been efficient, and they're facing a tough Steeler defense. It's just not going to work out.
He's a north-south running back. He doesn't get any passing down work. It's looking like JK's the guy, and I think we can both agree on that.
If we must
move on to wide receivers booms. Jay, I'll let you carry away the torch.
Oh, the torch. It's too hot. Make it stop. All right.
Sizzling.
All right. On my booms, I've got Chase Claypool. Now, this dude, he's a beast. Now, obviously, he didn't have a good week last week. He went off 2 weeks ago last week. He got 0.3 points. But that was in a crazy, crazy match against Tennessee where both of them were thrown off their game plans and they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, Chase did get a touchdown reception, which was called back due to penalties. There were all kind of penalties. This year is also crazy for penalties. Penalties and injuries.
Penalties.
It's constantly. After a play, you just have to stare and see if there's not a yellow flag, because most of the time there is. Okay, but I think Chase is going to go off this week. He's a good buy.
I don't have him anywhere on my booms or busts, but you can't really bet against Chase Claypool. Last week was a little weird of a week, especially against the Titans.
He was in it. Yeah. He got a lot of play time. They just didn't use him.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, Ben Roethlisberger mentioned that, especially he was talking about Juju Smith-Schuster to the public, and he was saying that Juju's not the guy to care about stats. And that's somewhat of basically an environment that they are building over there. They're the last undefeated team in the NFL, and it looks like production isn't necessarily going anybody's way, but Chase Claypool, with that build, that speed, and the way that he can just catch the ball, his footwork, I would not bet against him. I think Chase Claypool could have a really good week this week as well. Who else you got there?
I got Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
He's good at running uphill.
It's very true. He's a really fast guy. He's got strong legs.
Yep. Obviously, Kansas City's going to have a great game, so it just kind of goes without saying. Tyler Lockett. Seattle's going to go off this week, and I think Tyler's going to continue to be one of their main targets. And I also got T.Y. Hilton, because Indianapolis is going to go off this week. They're going to come out firing all cylinders, so he's going to benefit from that.
Well, I got T.Y. as a bust this week.
You're wrong again!
I think you might be favoriting Phillip Rivers' side and his best receiver, but that wide receiver core this year, especially with the anticipation a lot of people had with T.Y. Hilton going in, it has really been a disappointment. I would personally stay away from the wide receiver core. It's just, if T.Y. starts going off, it'll remind me of a couple years back, and I'll be living in the past again, but it's looking like this year, I don't want to mess with any of them. That's a bold boom for this week. And we'll see how it works out.
I stand by it. T.Y. has made some really great hotels, and I think he's going to overcome all your obstacles that you're trying to throw out there this week.
Okay.
Yeah. Moving on to busts. Or are you still on booms?
Well, it looks like we're still on booms. I'm going to go on my booms. I got
booms.
Robbie Anderson as one of my top booms for this week. You can't deny the guy. He gets the yards every week.
True.
He's a really good receiver. He's fast. He's a downhill receiver, but he can work around the field. And with DJ Moore on the opposite side of the field, he's going to get that open space. It's going to be tonight. I think he could get over 100 receiving yards once again. Also, another boom. A lot of people are going to start him. Obviously, nobody's going to bench this guy. Davante Adams, to say the least. I think he's going to end up wide receiver 1, even after missing a few weeks. You just can't bet against Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. It's a good matchup made in heaven. Also, another boom I got here is Marquise Brown. Hollywood Brown hasn't been having a great season so far this year, but I think that this is the week that he pops off. How do you feel about that Ravens wide receiver core? You know, they have their tight end in Mark Andrews, who's been on and off, but when he's on, he's on. And I feel like they can open up the field properly for each other, also depending on matchups. But Marquise Brown this year hasn't been wowing anybody, as a lot of people were expecting. That 7th round pick that people thought they stole on. We're waiting on that second half. Boom. I think this is the start of it this week.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because you can't bet against the Ravens this year. Marquise Brown needs more production in terms of targets for Lamar Jackson to take away from these games and set themselves from the rest. I feel like if they incorporate Marquise Brown going forward frequently and consistently, that Ravens offense will break out, open up the field for J.K. Ingram, Mark Andrews. But we'll see this week. Moving on to bust, Jay. Who do you got for your wide receiver bust this week?
Oh, Cap, so glad you asked. Well, I've got Amari Cooper.
I do too.
You do. This is scary.
Well, also Michael Gallup, C.D. Lamb.
I just didn't want to bump it down this too hard, so I just went with Amari. But it kind of goes without saying. I got Kenny Golladay because
I do as well.
Wow!
You've been cheating on me.
Oh no! Happy Golladays are over. Yep. So Kenny Golladay playing against Indianapolis, which is the number 2 pass defense in the NFL. Now you think I'm this Indianapolis fanboy, but Indy historically is like one of my least favorite teams. So
interesting, given the fact you're a huge Phillip Rivers fanboy.
I don't think that's true. I just look at the cold hard facts.
Cold hard facts. Why not looking at the cold hard stats? Although I do agree with you, Kenny Golladay is not going to be playing well this week. A lot of people anticipate him too, but I just feel like that Colts defense is going to shut him down a little bit. Justin here agrees with me as well. What?
You go ahead and finish that.
Oh, no, I was going to move on to another player for a bust.
Oh, I was going to say Devontae Parker.
Oh, we are also in agreement with Devontae Parker being a bust this week. We have some pretty good suggestions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. But it looks like our wide receiver busts are going to be busts this week. Because Devontae Parker, I know you're a Dolphins fan, Jay, but it's looking like he's not going to play that well. He's been battling somewhat of an injury, and with Tua coming in for his first game, not necessarily sure you can rely on a specific receiver in that offense just yet. Let's move on to tight ends. Who do you got for booms?
Well, I got George Kittle.
George Kittle, mostly rostered. Definitely start the guy whenever he's healthy. I agree with you. Any other suggestions you think?
Well, obviously, the Kittle and Kelsey go hand in hand. If you can have both of them, good for you.
You start them every freaking week. I agree.
Every week. So those are Those are my booms.
Not going to go into detail much about the tight ends because it's really unpredictable this year like every other year. It's hard to find great tight ends that are very consistent. Obviously, Kittle, Kelsey are the ones you start every single week if they're healthy. This week, I have Jonnu Smith, Robert Tonyan, and Noah Fant as must-starts. I feel like the offense is going to break out for them, and they're going to do pretty well. Let's hope so. I have a lot of shares of Jonnu Smith. Robert Tonyan, not really rostered much, so he's a good low-key pickup and start. All right, so now we're going to move on to tight end busts. Not really much to go into here with these specific players. These are just players that I truly feel like are not going to produce, in which a lot of people feel like they will this week. For one, TJ Hawkinson. I tried to pick him up in a lot of leagues. Not many leagues I was able to get a hold of him. I'm really excited for the rest of the season for him. But this week, TJ Hawkinson, I have him as a sit. Also, Chargers, Hunter Henry. Not really much going his way with their quarterback right now, their rookie quarterback, Herbert. It's not looking like Hunter Henry's the favorite right now. But also, Dalton Schultz, don't start him, guys. That Cowboys offense, just stay away from it. It's the best thing you can do right now for the sake of your fantasy season, especially at midfield of the season. I would just stay away from these guys for this week, but Dalton Schultz for sure. Until maybe the Cowboys trade for a quarterback, I feel like the Dolphins should trade Fitzpatrick to the Cowboys. I feel like that would be best case for the receivers, for Dalton Schultz, and the all-around offense, although their offensive line is struggling. Right now, we're going to go on to defense. We're going to keep it brief. Defenses are not easy to predict, but you look at the matchups, and sometimes you got to say, start these defenses. So I'm going to give my booms right now. I got Chiefs and Eagles. I'm going to give you guys two right now, Chiefs and Eagles. I feel like those are two defenses that are must-starts this week. Can't turn away from them. And Justin, do you have any defense booms right now?
Well, yeah, the Chiefs go without saying.
I agree with you on that. Chiefs defense last week, they had a couple touchdowns and basically broke away the game with their defense alone. That is something that is truly confident building material in terms of starting defenses, because every year you stream defenses, it's hard to tell.
Well, but they're playing the New York Jets, so
I didn't want to mention that word in here as much as I have already. But yes, they're playing the Jets, guys. Start the Chiefs defense. It's not going to look great for the Jets.
Probably can't go wrong with Buffalo. They did great last week, 14 points. And the Colts. Colts. What do you think about the Colts?
Colts defense this week can put up some points. I can see that definitely happening, obviously, with the way that the Colts defense has played throughout the season. Not the best, but with bye weeks, rest, I feel like their defense is going to step it up going into this week. They got a decent matchup. Let's go on to defensive busts.
Wait, there's one more boom. It's the Los Angeles Chargers.
Ooh.
They're playing Denver.
Oh. I completely forgot about that.
Lockett's having a lot of struggles, and Justin Herbert's going to keep the offense on the field for long periods of time, which will give them ample time to rest. So I think you can't go wrong with that either. All right, on to bust. Everybody's favorite topic.
Well, I got the Packers, Titans, Steelers, and Bears as bust. Guys, don't start them. They're not going to impress you. Although, yes, I mentioned the Steelers. One of the best defenses in the league, if not the best. This might not be their week, guys. I would sit them out for this.
Exactly. Always sit out the Bengals. I don't think the Panthers are going to do very well. And I don't think the Raiders are going to do very well.
Good input. Don't start these defenses, guys. We're telling you. We'll revisit next week from what we said. We'll see what our predictions looking like. We'll see who's right, who's wrong. We'll measure it up. This is our first episode of the podcast. Obviously, we'll make some more improvements, be more organized, and creating more segments so you guys get a better feel for each podcast as we go on through the week. We basically tight-packed everything into this one just to basically go over what we've seen throughout the season, how we feel about those teams, and what we feel going forward. I'm Mike. This is Melick. And this is the Fantasy Studios podcast.
We hope you enjoyed your time with us and rather spend it with us than doing anything else in the world, because that's really all we want. I spent many years as a sports journalist. It allowed me to sit on the sidelines and hang out with cheerleaders.
That's a good strategy, guys, by the way. Definitely take up on that. It's good advice.
Yes, so which qualifies me to sit here and tell you what everyone should be doing. So, in the future, we are going to have many more awesome things. This was just to let you get to know us a little bit. Mike didn't share any of his dreams about being...
One of my dreams that I did not mention, well, obviously didn't mention any dreams at all, I want a lifetime sponsorship from Busch Light. I think that'll be great. But I'm not an alcoholic, so if they don't, it's cool. It's fine. It's cool.
It's fine as long as we can get one for a chocolate milk company, too.
We could use some chocolate milk around here, not going to lie. Definitely help boost the morale of the studio atmosphere.
Absolutely. You know, Mike, my first job was as a stringer for our local newspaper. I paid $15 for every sports article. Started covering middle school football.
Oh, really? Any Derrick Henrys in that league?
Yes. I was the first one to see Derrick Henry's potential. This was after we came back from Asia, my senior year of high school. And so I didn't attend the school that I was covering, but so started middle school and then went on up to varsity. And so my sophomore year in college, I became sports editor of that paper. But there was a fierce newspaper rivalry because there was a bigger newspaper in town, and the editor was this 50-year-old guy. He was very, very aggressive. He was a big bully. Like, he would attack me in the paper, he would attack me on the sidelines. Just horrible. But he really liked cheerleaders, but they didn't like him. But I knew all the cheerleaders, because
obviously
they were my sister's friend. Yes, so it made him really mad. So the newspaper war got so out of hand that I ended up having to testify at an assault trial.
Oh my God.
He raised his fist and threatened our editor, who was a total wimp, and ran. So, but just this week, this is just a story about justice. Just this past week, this man was arrested for threatening to extort someone in Orlando, so he's currently waiting to be extradited to Orlando.
Oh my God.
So justice can happen if you just wait long enough and believe. But, yep, so it's been a crazy ride. So now here I am. He was so proud of himself because he wrote every article. You know, the hardest part about sports journalism and sports photography is you gotta get the ball. The action is where the ball is, which is pretty easy in football and basketball. It's hard in baseball. It's hard in golf, which I generally didn't like to cover golf. I had a women's golf coach who used to get really mad at me because I didn't cover.
Why is that?
She'd be like, I expect you to cover my girl just like you cover the football players. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I have limited space, and people just aren't. They don't care about high school golf.
That is very true.
So this dude would Photoshop baseballs into the shots. Because it wasn't even a good job. It's like he cut out with pairs. Stuck it on there. But now he's in jail.
Well, that was a great story. Very wholesome, by the way.
Very wholesome.
I hope you are past this And obviously you've used it as motivation to bring you to where you are now and where we're going to be going forward. I feel like you bring a lot to this podcast. As a Jet fan, please, guys, take my advice. Not his, though.
No, you have to take mine.
What are you talking about? Should we do a challenge?
You used the C word.
Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to use our booms and busts, and we're going to check them off, who was right, who was wrong, and whoever has the most tallies is the winner. But what should we do for the loser of the week?
Well, I don't know, Mike. What do you want to do? What if you lose?
Maybe, just maybe, shotgun a beer. I think that's a great idea.
How will they know if you do it?
Well, we'll be posting it on YouTube.
Oh, that's right. We're gonna have video. So you're gonna be holding a can of Busch Light, and I'm gonna shoot the can with a shotgun, right?
Not necessarily sure that's how shotguns work.
Can it be on your head?
But definitely, on my head. That's a good possibility. We will be shotgunning Busch Lights off my head, if that makes any sense. Depending on the loser, though. We have to see who the loser is. So we'll see throughout the rest of this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. We got the booms busting. We went over the Thursday night game, Falcons versus Panthers. We caught up a little bit about what was going on in the season. And we did our introductions. Let us know if we need anything to improve on, whatever you guys want us to add on to the podcast and talk about in terms of fantasy football, obviously, or anything personal. You guys have any questions, let us know. This is Mike and Melick, Fantasy Studios podcast. Peace out, everybody.
Just remember that in your league, you are the winner. All the other managers are losers, and we are going to help you soar to new heights. So stick with us for every podcast, and everything will be amazing. Thank you, and good night.
Let's go!
He always has to have the last word.
What?
Always.
Yes.
Never fails. These
Success.
people have things to do, okay? They got to go change their whole lineup because of all of our great advice.
Well, if you guys go with my booms, I guarantee you don't lose.
If you go with my bust, then you won't lose or something.
If you go with my booms, you will bust.
If you go with my bust, then you probably won't boom.
Mine was sexual. I don't know what yours was.
What? This is a family show.
Oh, this is a family show? This isn't Family Feud.
Well, you're like my bratty young brother, so whatever. Hang up the phone already, my gosh.
All right.